Hello there. Good evening, good morning, depending where you are, when you are. Okay, Weekly Wednesday live with yours truly, episode 44. My name is Juha Ruokangas, your humble servant on a mission from the gods, from the goddesses of fretted instruments. You, all the guitar loving people on the other side of the screen. Let's begin with a familiar meme that I think I've shown you before. Yeah. Albert Einstein's formula for us guitar enthusiasts. A mathematical equation to tell us the optimal amount of guitars to own. F equals X plus 1. F marks here the optimal amount of guitars, and the X marks the current number. F equals X plus 1. X plus 1. One more. I seem to need just one more, and then it's the optimal. But wait a minute. They're playing a trick on me, aren't they? Yeah. Look, I will show you this. I have this coffee jar here, and it's full of pens, full of pencils, and other essentials, scissors, ruler, a letter opener, but mostly it's pens. And in fact, now that I think of it, this jar is so full of pens that it's very difficult to draw one out. Oops, now it's gonna fall. Because my fingers hardly fit into the jar, it's so full. And, frankly, when I stare into the jar, it makes me kind of stressed, which one to choose, because there's so much pens. So what if the one I choose doesn't work? So instead of the pens in the jar, I'm using this one, this pencil, or I'm using this ballpoint pen, which is kind of too bad. I mean, these are just laying on my table here. But it's kind of too bad because I could have used some of these, because there's also some really nice ones here. A nice one, this one, for example. A friend of mine made it for me out of some cutouts, tone wood cutouts I gave him years ago. But since I've forgotten the pen into the jar, the ink has dried, so I need to order a refill, to the pen. Yeah, it's been sitting there in there for years. Well, the quickest ones of you already caught the ball, right? My overflowing jar of pens, of pencils, an analogy to owning so much guitars that choosing which one to play becomes a stressful task in its own right. There's a term, probably many terms to this phenomenon. One is the paradox of choice. You walk into a shop to buy a pair of jeans, and you stare at the shelves filled with jeans. And when the salesperson comes over, you're like, "Ma'am, I want a pair of jeans." And then she asks, "Would you like low or high waist, or medium, skinny or loose, boot cut, flared, maybe straight, worn, new look, stretch, classic denim?" At some point, at least I might feel like, screaming and running out to get a breather. So that's the paradox of choice. So much to choose from that it paralyzes us and we end up not choosing at all. There's a great book about it titled Paradoxically. Well, not this one, sorry. Oops. This one, Paradox of Choice. I know, I'm fully aware. I've shown you this book before in some episode, and I'll probably keep showing some of these things repeatedly from time to time. Yeah, I find that, well, often I tend to buy books that I have been that people have been recommending to me, or I find interesting for other reasons, both fiction and not so fiction. And sometimes I end up having these enormous piles of books waiting to be read, and it kind of stresses me out, even if it's completely crazy. I mean, I'm the one who got the books. Nobody forced me to get the books. Nobody forced me to read them, or forces me to read them in any specific schedule either. It's me. It's my doing. You know. Let's take this one. Kingsley. Choosing which one to play is stressful. The story of my life, at least the last 15 years. Thank you. Thank you, Kingsley. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of comments here coming in. Hello, Tuomas, Alex, Juuso, Hannu, Eric. Did I say already Tuomas? Yes. Kiponi, Kingsley, Kyrandel, Peter, Peter, Ilkka, Arto, Richard, TJ. Welcome, guys. Keep the comments coming. Good comments already. Let's see where this leads. It's going to be interesting. Well, there's another book. I haven't read it, but it was recommended a while ago to me by Manuel V from Germany. Thank you, Manuel. The title is Goodbye Things by Fumio Sasaki. And it falls into the category of kind of a minimalism, I think, a trendy, modern concept touching similar topics as what Marie Kondo talks about, KonMari stuff, cleaning up your material life, keeping only items that spark joy, as Marie Kondo puts it. So, well, anyways, I watched a video about Fumio Sasaki's thoughts, even though I haven't read the book yet. I will read the book, though. Thoughts he writes in the book, Goodbye Things. And there was one phrase that caught my attention. Sasaki says that the more material possessions we have, the less we can concentrate on what matters to us, because our things, all the items we own, they constantly send us these silent messages, like he says. Like those unread books of mine, they're there. They're silently asking me to read them. And Sasaki's theory is that even when I don't tackle those silent tasks right there and then, I'll still end up spending energy, aim my focus on that thing, which leads me to lose time, because it takes a while for me to focus back on what I wanted to really do and really focus on. And this causes negative feelings, negative energy, negative feelings like guilt, frustration, maybe even feelings of being inadequate. That's how you spell it. Inadequate. I'm not enough, Do we all now feel guilty enough for owning many guitars and wanting to own more? Seriously, please, that is not my intent at all. The point of this is that, yeah, sometimes I feel personally that I would maybe play more and be able to concentrate better into, say, developing my picking technique if I would just practice the darn picking instead of trying to find a product online that would do it for me better. Or I don't have a great guitar collection. I have maybe more amplifiers than I have guitars. I don't have even a huge amount of amplifiers, but I might have. I think I just calculated, like counted them, and there's maybe 8, depending how to count. I don't know, let's say 10 amplifiers within my reach easily. Well, they're part of it is my company's, like our demo amplifiers, but the company is mine, so I guess the amps are mine as well. So, and I'm kind of always looking for something new, something a little bit different. Even though I definitely do not play all the amplifiers I have, I do not play all the amplifiers, and yeah, I can recognize the thought from Sasaki's book, the thought of a silent task right there. You know, a great and expensive amplifier sitting there waiting to be played, while at the same time, when I play with my band or I rehearse for the band, I always use the same amp or the same two amplifiers, same pedals, same two guitars. Two guitars, yeah, one of them in E standard tuning and the other one dropped 1.5 steps down. So it's like cis or C sharp standard then, I guess. So in my case, in my current situation, playing the guitar or having the routines in playing guitar that I have, having guitar playing as my precious hobby and therapy, truth be said, therapy keeps me sane. I feel, yeah, I couldn't do it with one guitar. No, I need two guitars. But any other guitars I own, which I have a few, well, they're more nice to have items than necessary items, if I'm dead honest to myself. Do I want to get rid of the rest? No. No. No, 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 no. But let's ask again. Can one guitar be enough? Can one guitar be enough? That was the question for this week's episode. Can one guitar be enough? My dear friend, a top professional musician, Petteri Sarjola from Finland, he tours with an acoustic guitar and he changes tunings like about, I don't know, all the time. Between every song, nearly every song, sometimes in the middle of the song. One guitar. So if he can do that, there goes, my reasoning out the window for having two different tunings. One guitar would work if I make it work, in theory at least. So okay, this is a little mental exercise. We're playing with the thought of, at the moment, if whether one guitar could be enough for me personally or you guys. Sure, having only one guitar with my two tunings, it's a bit of a drag, but many, like, let's say, real guitarists have made it work, for sure. There are many, many guitarists who have, all through their career, they've played just basically one guitar. There are many of them. I even listed some of them. Now I'm kind of like in a brain freeze. I don't remember one single name, but they are there. You can list them. You can list those guys who are known making a career around one guitar. Yeah, Brian May, for example, Queen, one guitar. Changing tunings, it even can become part of the show, like it does in Petteri's case. When he's on stage and he's changing his tuning, it's really like a number, and people are laughing their eyes out. It's like it's fun when you do it like that. So in my case, it's more that I enjoy having more changing guitars between. It feels cooler to have different guitars, and I'm play a few songs and changing guitar, even if I don't have a technician running to me to swap the instruments. So in my case, it's Number one, laziness. Number two, vanity. Or number one, vanity, and number two, laziness. I don't know. That's me, a lazy ass poser. that's me. You know, each one of us have our unique situation. Another dear friend of mine from Finland, also Antti Paranko, also a seasoned professional musician, familiar name and face from a lot of videos he has made for us over the years. Anyways, Antti does a lot of different projects for live theater, for, you know, does gigging, he works in studio, different whole heaps different kinds of music, and he has quite an impressive toolbox of instruments in his use. And he uses them. I know that. I know Antti for a long period of time, and he uses these guitars, all his instruments. They are toolbox for his vocabulary in his different roles in his profession. So, you know, one guitar is great fit for this project, another for that project, and different guitars inspire him to play a little differently too. This is of course true to a lot of musicians. I know this. We all know this. Petteri Sarjola I mentioned earlier. He may tour with one guitar, but also has quite a versatile toolbox, array of guitars, I mean, in his use. Matias Kupiainen, yet another professional player from the metal music scene, a friend as well. Whenever he buys a guitar from us, he has quite a few. He actually buys always 2 at a time. You know, one to play and a spare that is more or less identical. And for him, it's very clear. You know, why to order one when you can order 2? No, seriously. When touring, that just makes sense for him. Having guitars as pairs like that makes perfect sense to him, even if it wouldn't maybe make so much sense for you. I don't know. Wouldn't make sense for me, I know that. But for Matthias, it really makes sense. So please remember when watching this, when listening to this, I'm not judging any one or any approach to this. Owning guitars, come on, this is they can be tools, but they are often grown-up toys. So let's not take it too seriously. My intent is not to make you feel guilty. My intent is to brainstorm with you a little bit, to have an exercise, brain exercise. Like let's say the reason for owning guitars is to play guitars. I know there are other reasons for owning guitars, but let's stick to this one for now. Let's assume we own guitars in order to play them, make music with them, and sometimes owning a multitude of guitars does result in playing more, whereas other times owning a multitude of instruments can be a distraction. It can paralyze us, like the guy buying those jeans because he needed a pair, and you know the old ones were just done for, kaput. The task was to buy jeans, but because of the amount of choices, the guy panicked and didn't buy. Task failed. In the same way, sometimes owning a lot of stuff, owning a lot of guitars, owning a lot of pedals, owning a lot of amplifiers, so on and so forth, this can be a distraction. It can be a source of negative energy in our lives. It's possible. It's possible. Maybe some of you are there now, like expecting a doctor's order from me, like that I would tell you how many guitars you should have, or you know, or if you're maybe let's play with the thought that you're flirting with the idea of downsizing your guitar collection and aiming for owning less, or maybe even that one guitar only, or 2 guitars or whatever, less than you now have anyways. And so in that case, what should that one guitar be then? Well, guys, I do not have the answer to either of these questions. I don't have an answer to how many guitars you should have. I don't have an answer to what could that magical one guitar collection be. You're the only person, seriously, you are the only person in the world who can answer to that question to you. The only person. So how do you find your answer then? Well, it's an inner journey, right? We have here a little fly. It's an inner journey. And maybe I hope that this video, the thoughts, the books to read, the food for thought, maybe this podcast could be one stepping stone on that journey to find your true form as a guitarist, a bassist, to find out whether your heart and soul, your sphere in making music, whether all that comes together from a situation of owning multitude of instruments, like a beam of light that consists of a whole spectrum of smaller beams, and only together these beams of light, they intensify to what you are about, what you want to communicate with your music. So you need this array of tools to create it. Or maybe, what if you need only one? The guitar you always, let's face it, many of us have that. The guitar you always gravitate towards. The one that feels more magnetic than the others. You grab it the easiest, and the most, you grab it the most often. And then maybe if you would imagine this, if you give your undivided time, your focus to that special instrument that you gravitate towards, and allowing the clutter and the noise caused by the other guitars, the other silent whispers, play me too, and me, play me. When that noise would be silenced, what if only then your true voice would have space, room to crystallize? Yeah, maybe this video will give you that little nudge, so your exploration continues with some fresh fuel in the tank, so to speak. I'm gonna look at some questions now. I'm pulling out a few comments that I find very good. At least I found one. Jose Delgado. There's the fear of you and the instrument. Naked. Effects, loads of amps, etc. are often a way to avoid facing the learning process. I can recognize this. Thank you, Jose. Excellent summary of one perspective that might play a role in our lives, in our guitar collecting lives, or so. Going through the questions a little bit. My apologies to the podcast listeners, because it's going to be this silent moments. Okay, this is a good one. Juha, do you find that an unplayed guitar is an unhappy guitar? actually sounds or feels worse over time if unplayed, or does it not matter from a technical perspective? Well, I find, yeah, that if a guitar is unplayed for a long time, maybe the phrasing unhappy guitar could be something, because when you start playing a guitar, the changes are going to be more apparent and more obvious on an acoustic instrument. But also with an electric guitar, it feels like it's a little bit, when you haven't played in a long time and the guitar is kind of like stuffed and you can't get the full potential out of it until you play and you play and play, and then after a few weeks you realize, wow, this guitar, now it starts sounding different. There's something to it. But this is, of course, very subjective, very difficult to prove scientifically, something like this. But also from technical point of view, having a guitar sitting in its case for years unplayed does have its technical disadvantages as well, because let's say for one very concrete, especially an electric guitar, the pots and the switches, they're going to be oxidizing and they're going to be corroding a bit the surfaces, so there's going to be crackling, and the pots stay in best condition when you're using them, and when you're not using them in a long periods of time, they're going to kind of go bad. You can clean them up to a point, but enough oxidization, is that what you say? Cleaning doesn't help anymore, and then you need to change the pots. But it's not like you won't be an electric guitar. You won't be able to, let's say, spoil completely by leaving in its case. It's okay. But there are these subtleties to it, I'd say. Yeah. Okay, here we have one guitar collection. Kingsley's Current 67, only a half a dozen, which I hardly ever want to play. But you still might want one more, don't you? The human nature, it's interesting, isn't it? Yeah. Well, modern technology has attempted to solve or offer one kind of a solution for us for a long time. The Line 6 Variax standard electric guitar, for example. Bear with me, I'm going to show you even a picture. There. Look. It uses Line 6 modeling technology. 13 electric guitar models, 10 acoustic guitars, and exotic stringed instruments, 11 alternative tunings. Wow, I'd only need 2. Hey, Petteri, you can also throw your Kunz acoustic guitar away. Get one of these babies. One of the Variax babies, because they can do all your tunings, and you can probably program whatever tuning you want to it, I would guess. It has 16 different pickup types. So wow, what is that? That's 13 times 10 times 16 possibilities. That's like well over 2,000 combinations of instruments, sounds, and tunings in one instrument, in one guitar. And when they update the program, you'll get more. I haven't played the latest Variax, but if they develop like the rest of the modeling technology does, I would assume that these things, the Variax, doesn't sound shit anymore. It did back in the day. It's been around for a good few years, over 10 years, way over 10 years. They're probably pretty good these days. The versatility is nearly endless. Like, hook that Line 6 into a quad cortex modeling device with its, I don't know, thousands or tens of thousands, probably endless amounts, like because you can program it. So endless amounts of possibilities. And those endless possibilities times 2000 Variax sounds. And there you have it. One guitar, one amplifier, a combo that is capable of more sounds than any other combo in the world. Maybe, I don't know, maybe there's even crazier stuff out there. But now we're facing, of course, another paradox. Now we have so freaking versatile tools that have so much parameters to choose from that it will take years to even browse through and test every option. So I don't know about you, but for me, it is really, it's paralysis, panic, and run amok. That's what happens to me in that kind of a situation. But seriously speaking, regardless of what I just said, paralysis, panic, run amok, I'm going to tell you the secret. I do have a serious interest towards the quad cortex. I do. I've forgotten that there. Sorry, guys. How do I get it off? Serious interest towards the quad cortex. What's wrong with me? But the guitar, the Variax, the guitar is so much about the connection. It's some of the feel, the nuances. It's so personal. It's like resting against my body. It's like, I'd like to think of it as an extension of my body. It's like it's really an instrument for my feelings, for my soul. So it's almost like a supernatural phenomenon. What makes a guitar inspiring. And for me, in a guitar, all the digital possibilities and versatility, it's, oftentimes a superb variety of different sounds is not at the top of the list. Let's put it that way, diplomatically said. For me, in a guitar, versatility has its role, but there are other more essential aspects to it, I feel. Okay, let's take. Richard says, I'll be right back. Delivery driver is at the door with another guitar. Yay! Way to go. Kingsley. This is a good one. Playing only one guitar is kind of like painting with only one color. Some guitarists are happy to work within that sort of limitation. Other guitarists, me for example, aren't so happy that way. Yeah, that's perfectly understandable, and I can absolutely relate to that. Absolutely relate to that. And Hannu. Wait a second. Hannu started first. Hannu started. I think it's possible to manage with one instrument, and usually you're not able to play more than one at a time anyway. Yes. But it's more fun to own several. Isn't it? It is. Yeah, I thank God I'm not alone with my illness. But let's still, we're gonna like I said, this is an exercise where we're exploring the possibility of, can one guitar be enough? And if possible, to not take it literally, take it as I've now repeatedly tried to desperately explain, as an exercise for your mind, that you could face your face your fears if there's something like that, or that you can critically take the bird's eye view to your behavior and we're here to understand better, and facing the fears is the key to that. To understand better, to be humble enough to face the quirky sides of our personalities. You can, of course, own guitars for other reasons than playing too. Goes without saying. And that's all good, of course. Collecting guitars can be a great hobby. Like collecting, even if you don't play guitars, over time could turn out to be a great investment even. I collect things too, not guitars. Really, I don't collect guitars. I don't see myself as a guitar collector. Guitar enthusiast, yes. Guitar player, yes. Well, guitar maker, but this is different. Almost like a different role, even if not really, can't be. But it serves my schizophrenic personality quite well. Not guitars really. I don't collect, but other things such as music, vinyl albums, as you may know by now. You watched my shows, so you might know it. Anyways, collecting, it's a part of human nature, and a totally subjective matter and harmless matter. It should be a harmless matter. Don't collect stuff that harms other human beings or animals or anybody else. Don't collect stuff like that's too weird. That's where the limit goes. So as long as nobody gets harmed, feel free, collect. And the way we collect, it depends on many facets in life. It depends on the financial situation we're in. It also depends on storage or showroom space, available and so on. Whether we're talking about collecting or hoarding, there's sort of a difference, should be. On this video, I'm not drilling very deep into the perspective of owning one or more guitars from the collector's point of view, other than I will say that among other type of collectors, there is, which I need to say this because our topic, after all, can one guitar be enough? Among other type of collectors, there is the term of a single item collection. For example, for wristwatches, you could have, for example, a modest collection of, let's say, 10 watches that average value $1,000 each, meaning you have spent $10,000 to acquire that 10 watch collection. But on the other hand, what if you'd spent $10,000 to that holy grail watch you wanted instead of 10 times $1,000 to watches that you feel are almost what you want? and the question would be then, which collection sparks more joy or brings me more joy? Quoting Marie Kondo here. 10 good watches or one that you really, really want. If you're in that kind of a financial situation where you need to make that choice, you cannot have 10 pieces of $10,000 watches. So you need to kind of make that choice. Or with me, my vinyl album collection, the answer is pretty clear to me. Owning a lot of my favorite music definitely sparks more joy in me than owning one super rare and expensive gem that I wouldn't even dare to put on the turntable. So it wouldn't drop in value. So again, the watches, the music collection, these are just arbitrary examples, a way to give our brains some annoying questions to work on, to push us off balance a little bit. If wristwatches or vinyl albums or guitars don't cause an emotional reaction in you, change the subject to something else, like toys, comic books, cars, wine, yachts, airplanes, handbags, shoes, I don't know, coins, trophies, whatever you want. Choose the one that makes you upset when being forced into choosing. find your find the edge of your comfort zone and step on the other side of it. Mind exercise, brain exercise. Okay, let's see a couple of more comments. TJ, I play just one guitar 99% of the time. I want the color to come from the music and the versatility of that guitar and my playing. To me, it sounds like you found your voice in playing that guitar with those pickups, and that that's the thing that drives you. So, yeah. Kingsley continues, Pat Metheny used to sling his ES-175 over his shoulder to play an electric 12-string or Nashville strung acoustic, which was on a stand. Yeah. Pat Metheny is a great example of those guitarists who probably, with one instrument, would feel like handicapped. And I know plenty of such players, and so again, let's remember the fact that there is really not right and wrong answer to our question. It's more just looking at it from your perspective. Who are you? Okay. So one more book tip for you guys. It's this. Essentialism, the disciplined pursuit of less. I've shown this one before. I know, as some of you notice, and might think, why don't you show something new? But do we need new content all the time? Because in learning a new skill, repetition, learning the routine, that's often the key. Sports, playing guitar, the same applies to using our brain. Rather than reading all the human development books in the world, it might be an idea to stop and read the good one again. And again. And again. Okay, the content may be the same every time you read it, but you're not. When I read this first time, I was a different person from when I read it the second time, the third time. I'm in a different situation every time I read an inspiring book that I feel has made a difference in my life before. And if it has done that before, there's a good chance it will do it again. It reminds me of the important bits, and it does inevitably offer me something new, a perspective I didn't understand the previous time I read it because I wasn't there yet. I wasn't ready for that bit yet. Well, this is one of the good books. Essentialism book. Highly recommend it. It does tie in definitely to our topic. I will read you the back cover of it. Have you ever found yourself stretched too thin at home or at work? Have you ever felt both overworked and underutilized? Do you ever feel busy but not productive? Do you ever feel like you're constantly in motion but never getting anywhere? Well, this book has very interesting takes and perspectives on answering those questions and many more. So, Essentialism by, I don't know how to pronounce the last name, Greg McKeown. Somebody else can pronounce it. So a quick summary. Can one guitar be enough? Well, I would rephrase this divisive and provocative question and ask instead, what is your identity deep down as a player? Do your decisions regarding guitar gear or playing the guitar? Do these decisions come from within, from that sacred place that is you, your true form that only you know inside out? Or are your decisions driven by what other people think? Maybe a friend who reflects his own needs upon you, or maybe companies with the needs their marketing departments like fabricate. Because the world, it is so saturated with expectations, with standards, with what is considered as normal, quote unquote normal. Whereas the truth is that every one of us is a bit, a bit quirky, funny, weird, and we're all a bit insecure regarding those quirky bits. So you're not alone. We're all all in this together. And those quirky bits, there might be that chance that that's the interesting part. That's the part that makes you unique and different, and yeah, the magical part. What do you think? Peter, maybe off topic or just half on topic regarding what the book cover says. Sounds exactly like me trying to focus on too many things at the same time and ending up not doing them properly. Well, Peter, read this book. It's really, it could be very useful, because I definitely recognize myself in this book. It's so spot on many facets of my life. I have so much going on. I've had so much going on. But this book is really what essentialism means. It's like it ties in some way to minimalism, or in some way to cleaning up our material lives. But this is not really about that. This is just finding out what is essential in your life and focusing into that stuff. And it's so easy to just say it in a sentence or two sentences, and we all kind of understand. Every one of us understands that, of course I have to do that. I have to focus to the essential. Hell, why haven't I done that all my life? But that's not how you realize. That's not how you change. A change is a long process, and there are many steps. You take 2 steps forward and 1 step back, and sometimes 3 steps back, and then eventually, with the attempt of basically 2 things that I feel very comforting in my life, is that I know the good things in my life, and I know the path. I know the path. So I have only 2 things to remember. Number 1, to stay on the path. And number 2, when I fall from the path, to get up and get back on the path. Because falling from it happens inevitably, and it will happen again and again. But it doesn't mean that all the work I've done is lost. I can always get back on the path and continue. So we started with Albert Einstein, an individual who didn't hide the fact that he was different. He didn't fight his quirky bits, and so he also succeeded in making a difference in our world. So we'll end this with another different individual. A few words of wisdom by Yes, the one and only Yngwie Malmsteen. Here goes.
You know, I don't want to just play it safe. So 2-string, it'd be 3-string, 4-string, 5, 6-string arpeggios. But people kept on telling me to slow down. You know, I said, hey, slow down. I'm like, oh. You know, remember, less is more. And I always said, how can that be? How can less be more? It's impossible. More is more.
It's a classic. Yes, indeed, the gospel, according to Yngwie Malmsteen, applies to playing guitar just the same as Einstein's theory of the optimal amount of guitars to own. The current amount plus one. Yes. And how can less be more? More is more. Priceless. Priceless. Before saying goodnight, a word or two about the next Wednesday episode. I will have a very special guest with whom I've been looking forward to chat with for a long time. As many of you might recall, I did recently an episode about the future. What was the title? Where is guitar design going next? And yeah, next week we'll have a chat with someone who seems to be very talented in seeing the future. And in his case, not in the typical way of talking about the future, but rather making the future happen, hands-on, nuts and bolts, the real deal, you know. I guess I could say I am a colleague to this person as we're both working within the sphere of what could be called the guitar industry, even we're looking at things from slightly different perspectives. I am talking about Mr. Douglas Castro, the mastermind behind the company Dark Glass Electronics. First the Dark Glass, and then in 2017 he founded Neural DSP, the company making the Quad Cortex. Two companies within about 10 years, both of them having grown industry leaders on their fields. So Douglas must be doing something right. Or maybe he owns that crystal ball I sometimes refer to. That crystal ball that we all so much crave for having the chance to look into. We'll find out next Wednesday. And a disclaimer though, the interview will be aired next Wednesday, normal time, 9 p.m. Eastern European time, Finnish time, like the Wednesday live streams do. But the interview part of the stream next Wednesday, it is a pre-recorded interview that we'll do tomorrow. That won't be live tomorrow, so you will see it on Wednesday. It will be recorded. The reason why I'm mentioning this is in case you have questions to Mr. Douglas Castro. So please, if you have questions to Douglas, please pre-send them either as comments below, maybe to the not to the live, or you can send it to put it to the live chat if you have time these couple of minutes that the live chat is continuing, but the comments below the video after the fact, after the recording is published. This episode is published. So comments or use the other ways, email, messenger, or whatnot. But I said the interview happens already tomorrow, so if you want your question answered, send it quick. God, I feel I explained this very complicated and poor way. Interview happening tomorrow, airing next Wednesday, send questions. Anyways, very much looking forward to. I hope I didn't cause very much misunderstandings. Very much looking forward to having a chat with Doug. Let's see if we find any common ground between what they do, what we do. All right. That's it, folks. Thank you so much for your support. Take care of your loved ones. Be well. Stay safe. Peace, love, and good music.